You, yes, over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Renata. Thank you for that brief intro. So, my name is Mary-Beth Hosking. I am a global C-suite leader, professional speaker, author, thought leader. And today we are going to be talking about a couple of things. I know that it said not another transformation going exponential. So I'm going to bring in a couple of concepts, some interesting things that I've been writing about and thinking about over the last couple of years. As I said, my background, C-suite, so I was a global CIO and a CEO. So I transitioned through all of that, but coming from it with a background in projects. So I have a question now. I like to run interactive webinars as much as I possibly can because I don't want to just regurgitate information at you. I want you to actually have a bit of a think as we go. So if you're comfortable with that, I'm happy for you to put it in the chat or to take yourself off mute and throw some things at me. Absolutely fine with that too. But my very first question before we even begin is who in this cohort, who of you have wanted to get into the C-suite? So we're talking about chief operating officer, chief um, information officer, chief technology officer, chief people officer, whatever that might be, that C-suite. Who of you have wanted to do that, but have felt that you do not have a pathway from PMO or project management or program management? Show of hands, perhaps, or if anyone wants to pop something in the chat. Or do you all feel that, yeah, it's absolutely a pathway that you can get to? Okay, great. Not an easy pathway. Thank you, Alice. Anyone else got a comment on that? Been a CEO and board chair. Fantastic. So there are pathways. Thank you, Ian. There are pathways to get. So I think we've got somebody who's come off of mute, but it's feeding back. So we'll just, if we do the chat, I think the chat's probably easier. Not for me. Yes, agree. Not easy. It is not a pathway that everybody wants, but it is absolutely a pathway that everyone could achieve if they wanted it. And that's what I wanted to start us off with. So I'm going to share my screen, and what I'll probably do, and I spoke to Renata on this, I might drop in and out of this screen some of the way because, some of you might go, oh God, I just don't want to be bombarded with PowerPoint, but hopefully they're a little bit more interesting for you. But let's get cracking and we'll have a look at that. Now, Renata, just going to let you know that in this view, it's very challenging for me to say, oh, no, I'm good. I can see the chat now. So does everyone see my screen? Yes, I'm hoping so. Excellent. Let's get started. So where it all began. So for me, my trajectory to CEO was not an easy pathway either. In fact, I started my life, my career life as a professional singer. So I worked as a professional singer in opera when I first started out, and then I moved from Adelaide to Melbourne because I thought I just want to be a rock star. That's what I want to be. So I joined a band and it was fantastic and it was everything that I wanted to be and all that I wanted to be. And I was absolutely known for that. I was known as a singer amongst all of my friends, everybody I met, I was a singer, and that's what I wanted to do until I didn't want to do that anymore. And I had a quiet meltdown because I thought, oh my God, this is not what I want to be. This is not who I want to be. And the catalyst for me was, now, I don't know if many of you know what it's like to sing covers in a cover band. Anyone have a view of that? Has anyone ever been to a wedding where they've had a band playing and they've sung songs, there's been singing there, etc.? Has anyone had that? Hopefully you've had that. because it would make what I'm about to say very non-relevant. Yes, okay. So some of us have been there. I mean, a lot of the times now it's DJs, right? But there was a time when I would be working 4 days a week or 4 nights a week. And my partner and I were at our final gig. And I didn't know it was the final gig while we were at the final gig, but it was the final gig. And they asked me to sing Mustang Sally. I'm hoping that some of you know that song. It's not that old a song. Great, Ian, I can see you nodding away. So they got me to sing Mustang Sally 9 times, 9 times at that wedding. We did 6 hours of performing, and I sang that song 9 times. I hate that bloody song. I'm just going to throw that out there. Oh my God. And I remember packing up all the gear, lugging it into the car to drive back home and do all those sorts of things that you do when you are a budding young singer. And I said to my partner, I can't sing that song again. I don't want to do this. This isn't joyful for me. This is just a drudge, and I don't want to do it. And he said, okay, what do you want to do? Now I'm going to say something that's going to be possibly horrific to every single person that's on this webinar right now. But I said to him, oh, I just want to work in corporate. I want to get up and go to work at 9, and I want to come home at 5. I want to have the weekends off so that I can see my friends. Yeah, yeah, it's exactly what I wanted to do. And it was scary because I was known as a singer. What I didn't realize at the time was that you can rebrand yourself, you can change, you can move and pivot your career multiple times, and you will pivot your career multiple times. For every single one of you that is on this webinar right now that has aspirations for something else, I would love to say to you, it is entirely possible to pivot to what it is that is going to bring you joy. And that's how I like to start this, because I'm in the middle of a career pivot right now. So I was a CIO, then a CEO, and I just recently quit my job. I quit my job in May this year because I didn't want to do it anymore. I just thought, I don't want to do this. I've done this, I'm done. And I've taken a leap, and I'm now in the midst of a pivot. And part of that pivot is to become a professional speaker and an author. And what I'd like to take you through right now is a concept that I wrote about a couple of years back, and it is around that digital transformation space. So who wants to hear a little bit about that? Yes, great. All right. I can see some nods and some hands. Fantastic. Good. Because it is entirely possible for every single one of you to make a career pivot, and it just takes a little bit of planning. But what is it that we do as project managers and program managers? What is it that we do? We plan. We plan and we course correct. And then we plan a bit more, right? That is our job. That's what we do. So you can take everything that you've learned as a PM, a project manager, a program manager, everything that you've learned in this space, and you can pivot your career. It's just the same. So my thought for you, or I'm going to leave you with this, is you can be whatever it is you want to be as long as you have a view of what your North Star is. Consider your milestones, consider the things that you need to get to where you wish to be. But just like any other plan, you'll work it through. Okay, so let's get into not another digital transformation, shall we? I got a question and I need lots of answers. So throw your answers in the chat, please, because this is really going to help me build out what we're going to be doing. So who is currently or has just finished working on a digital transformation? I'm just waiting for the chat. So pop something in the chat if you've got it. Got to be at least a few of you working on a digital transformation. There's two in the thick of it. Yes, Pam, excellent. Great. Yes. Jean, ongoing. I know what that feels like. Oh, my Lord. Yes, I do. Execution mode, brilliant. All right. So here we go. I'm going to talk about not another digital transformation because I have been involved in at least 7 digital transformations in my time in my career. Now, I know that I only look 25, right? But I've done quite a lot of digital transformations, and some of them I've just thought, what is this all about? So here's the question for you then. If you're in the middle of it, you're in the process of it, or some of you are in the elongated process of it, how's it going? Thumbs up, is it going well? Thumbs down, is it not going well? You can write in the chat, it's rubbish, it's hard, it's awesome, it's terrible. Yeah, great. I'd love to unpack Game Changer with you, Arnold, at some point. Yeah, okay. Bit of this, yeah. I'm a scuba diver, so if I do this, it means, yeah, things aren't so good. So, good, excellent. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to give you some interesting statistics around digital transformation, things that you might not have known. And this is from McKinsey, so not my research. Did you know that 74% of digital transformations fail to deliver on what the business promise was? Did you know that? Because if you're not aware of that, it is an interesting statistic when you consider that when this study was written by or was undertaken by McKinsey, I think it was 2024, $3.4 trillion had been spent on digital transformations at the time. $3.4 trillion and 74% of those failed to meet the business objective, failed to deliver on the business promise or the business problem that was trying to be resolved. So when my writing partner, Addie Kalra, and I decided to write this book, Not Another Digital Transformation, it was around this notion that sometimes it's not a digital transformation that you're actually going through, and that what is told to the business by consultants may not necessarily be what the business needs. So let me take you through what we coined the wheel of chaos. So is that showing up on your screen and does it move around? I'm hoping it does. So let's think of it like this. An executive is hired and the executive decides they've spoken to some consultants maybe, or they've gone to let's say they've gone to a tech conference. Now, this is possibly happening in the AI space right now. I was just speaking with Renata about this earlier, about how AI is interesting, derailing a few things. But let's just stick on digital transformation. So we've got a senior leader. They've gone and decided change is needed. Not quite sure what the business problem is I'm trying to solve, but I need to change. Things need to change. So they'll engage a consultant. That consultant will come in and say, we need to do a digital transformation. And the CEO or the C-suite will go, okay, great, yes, let's do that. So they'll start to look at what that digital transformation is. Now, from my experience, and when I talk about a digital transformation in here, I am not talking about a technology uplift because we all know that we do need to keep our systems in alignment with what is happening in the technology landscape. So this is not a technology uplift. What I'm talking about is when consultants come in and say, you know what, Mr. Business, the problem that you have is that your technology department doesn't work well with others. That technology department doesn't communicate. And therefore, all of your issues with market share and things not actually being attributed or worked on is because technology doesn't know how to work with the rest of the business. They put technology to the side and treat it as a service provider when it actually is just part of the organization. So the consultants are engaged. They start the change process. They'll go through and they'll do the change and they will then go back to the business and say, yes, we have delivered what we promised. And then they will leave. There will be a lack of a follow through. then what happens? People go back to their ways of working because there was no real follow through. It wasn't really an uplift. It was just a transformational change of the ways of working. And then people just go back into the ways of working that they had before, and the change fails. The C-suite then become disgruntled because they've just spent millions of dollars on consultants to bring in and do this change. And the executive is then moved on, and then they bring in a new executive. And then that executive decides that a change is needed. And I have worked in organizations where this has happened multiple times and significant amount of money is spent. Anyone else experience that? The zombie project. I love that, Alex. Yes, yes. Some of you may have experienced that. When we wrote the book, we were speaking with quite a few organizations that were really impacted by this, and significantly so. So Addie and I decided there has to be a better way. There's got to be a better way of doing this. It's not always the tech department's fault. And honestly, being a tech girl, I'm so sick of technology being blamed for everything. And I think right now, I'm sick of hearing that AI is going to solve everything too. And I'm pretty sure that for most of you, you're hearing, oh, we'll just do AI. We'll just use AI. That will solve everything. That will solve everything that we have, and that will address the problem. But I would counter that with asking the question, do we really know what the business problem is that we're trying to solve? Because if we don't know the business problem that we are trying to solve, then we are throwing good money after bad. And I see this a lot with organizations, that they are bamboozled by consultants who promise them a great deal, deliver the minimum, and then walk away. Or want to sign the organization up for more and more consulting, which again isn't going to address a business problem if a business problem isn't understood or doesn't exist. So for many of you, I'd love to hear it in the chat. Any of you are working on a project where you sit back and you think, man, this is a vanity project. This business doesn't know what the problem is. They have no idea what the problem is that they need to solve. Any of you working in that space at the moment or have? Because if you have, or if you are, it is a soul-destroying space to work in, because you actually start to question, what is it that I'm actually doing here? And I think as professionals in this space, it's hard to see it, but it is also hard to get the ear of the decision maker to help change it. But let's keep going. All right, so Addie and I came up with what we call the plane analogy, which is what we see, or how we see the perfect organization working. And I want to take you through that and take you through the concept, because you might sit back and go, oh, that's a great concept, Mary-Beth, but I'm not sure if that's for us. But let's get started, shall we? Now, this is where you become interactive, if you haven't already gotten there. Now, we're going to talk about the operational tier, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen for one moment, because I would love to see your lovely faces. And if you haven't got your camera on, pop your camera on. Excellent. I can see people. Hello. Because I don't want to bombard you, and there's not a lot in these slides. These slides are really just placeholders because they just keep me going. All right. Who has ever gone on a holiday? Is there anyone that hasn't? Because I've had people who haven't. Who's taken a flight? You've all gone on a flight? Everyone knows what it is to go on a flight to go somewhere. Excellent. All right. So where are we going? Give me some of your favorite holiday destinations. Write them in the chat. I want to know your favorite holiday. Oh, Japan. Beautiful. Thailand. Yes. DMZ. DMZ? Italy. India. Austria. Nice. Canada. Gorgeous. Anywhere else? I quite like it where it's nice and hot. Oh, South Korea. Thank you. Yes, South Korea. Gorgeous. I've not been to North Korea. Don't know that it's somewhere to go, but Japan, Philippines, Rome, fantastic. Okay, as your facilitator, the person who's doing this keynote, where would I like to go? I want to go. It's really cold in Melbourne. Is it cold over in New Zealand at the moment? Because we're really cold here. I want to go Maldives. Here's the question. Is it Maldives or Maldives? Let's say Maldives, okay? So let's go to the Maldives. It's beautiful. Anyone, if you've been to the Maldives, it is warm. It is glorious. The beaches are pristine. It is the best place to go. So let's think about this in relation to an organizational structure. What is the one thing that you know happens when you book a flight? What do you get? You get your itinerary, don't you? On your itinerary, you know where you're going, you know when you're going, you know the airport you need to go to. You know, based on this itinerary, how much you can pack in your luggage. You know everything that you need to know to go on your flight, don't you? Yeah. So you rock up at the airport for your flight. What's the first thing you do? You've got your luggage. You go to the luggage area and you're going to check your luggage in. You'll check your luggage, you'll get a luggage tag, you'll put that luggage tag on the bag, and then that bag will go through. And it's going to go through to the baggage handlers. Baggage handlers are now going to look at that and they're going to go, oh, look, Arnold's going to the Maldives. So we're going to take Arnold's bag and put that on the plane to the Maldives. You're then going to go to the gate lounge and you're going to sit there with all of the other people that are going to the Maldives. All of the other people whose bags are on that same flight. When the flight is announced, you are then boarding the plane. You are now boarding a plane with 100 other people who are all going to the Maldives. And you're asking yourself, why is she talking about this? Why does this matter? I'll explain why it matters from an operational perspective. The operational tier is what I like to refer to as the tech hub. It is the engine room of your organization. How many times have people in the tech space not known where the organization is leading or headed to, what the vision of the organization is, what the strategic intent of that organization is? They just work in technology. If you were to ask a person that sits on the service desk, what is the strategic intent of this organization? What are we here to do? Could they answer you? Could they answer you the same way as if somebody walked onto that flight with you and said, where are you going? And the flight attendants knew that you are going to the Maldives. You and every other person on that flight knows you're going to the Maldives. You all know your luggage is going to the Maldives. Imagine what it would be like if you're in that tech hub and you all know where you're going. What would that do for your organization? So from an operational perspective, it is about getting everybody in that operational hub to know where you're going. But that's not where the flight ends, is it? Once you've gotten on board the flight. So what we then have, and hopefully my screen has come up. Has that come up for you? I hope so. Let's go. You've got the tactical tier. So in the plane analogy, the tactical tier relates to all of your departments within an organization. So you've just gotten on your flight to the Maldives and it is freezing in New Zealand. So you're sitting on that plane and you're thinking, oh my God, I cannot wait to get into that sunshine. So you sit down. What's the first thing that you do? Put your seatbelt on. You know to put your seatbelt on because that's the way that it works, doesn't it? This is what the ways of working looks like on a plane. So you've got your seatbelt. But now let's think about each of our departments within an organization. You've got your HR department. You might have your PMO. You might have your marketing department, your sales department. You've got all of your other departments within your organization. Think of it on the flight. So your departments are represented by the flight attendants, the pilot, ground control. All of those departments know where your plane is going. So when your plane is about to take off, just before you take off, you get the safety demonstration. You know all about that. And for most of you who ignores the safety demonstration because you've flown so much, you don't even care about it anymore, but you do know, because this is the way of working, you know exactly what happens if you need to in an emergency. But as that plane takes off and it hits 10,000 miles up, you'll hear a ping. And that first ping tells you that you've hit a certain threshold. Then you'll hear the next ping, which is where you can take your seatbelts off. If you were to ask the flight attendants would know this flight is going to the Maldives. If you were to ask the people in flight control, they would know that flight is going to the Maldives. And then all the other way to the other end of the airport at the Maldives, they know that your plane is incoming, and they know there are 100 people that are about to come to the Maldives too. So every department that touches and interfaces with your flight knows exactly where you are going and when you should arrive. How often in organizations do they not know? How often in an organization do the departments not know where and what the strategic intent of that department is? How often in an organization do we have shadow IT, where each department just cares about itself and doesn't understand the full overall implications or have a macro view of exactly what it's supposed to be doing? Unlike every single person on that flight, all of us, every single one of us on this webinar, we all know we're going to the Maldives, don't we? Yes? So we are all going to the same place. We know that the flight attendants all know exactly where we're going. We know that those baggage handlers knew exactly where we are, and our bags are on that flight with us. We know that at the destination point, they are expecting us to land at a particular gate, and they are expecting 100 people to come off of that flight. Every single department knows. They just know where we are coming from and where we're going to. Finally, we have the strategic tier. So this is that C-suite. And quite a lot of the times we see C-suite just as siloed as the rest of the organization. One department, one C-suite leader knows one area. They may know it as a view, but they aren't as invested in it. So if we think about that strategic tier in our plane analogy, suddenly every single person that knows about this flight, regardless of what area they work in the airport, at either the destination location or where we've left off from, all know exactly where our flight is going to. When the operational tier, the tactical tier, and the strategic tier are all in alignment, they all know the strategic intent and where the organization is going. They all talk the same language, and everybody from service desk through to C-suite all have the same view, all know exactly where we're flying to. That is where you will get strategic alignment across your organization. Now, it's great when it happens on a flight, but it doesn't always happen. And it doesn't happen with every single flight. And we get this notion of silos where individuals just decide that they don't like the strategic intent or don't have enough information about the strategic intent. And if they don't have that information, it is entirely possible that the organization then starts to go adrift. Do you all know what a dragon boat is? Has anyone heard of dragon boats? You know, the Chinese dragon boats where everybody on board, yeah, absolutely. We're all rowing in the same direction. We all know. What happens when one or two people start rowing out of sync? The dragon boat starts to go around in circles. It cannot go forward. So if you're going to go exponential in your organization, you need to actually ensure that throughout the organization, no matter what decision is made, everybody is aware of the decision making, everybody is a part of the decision making, and everybody knows that we are all flying to the Maldives and that no matter where we go, regardless of the trip, regardless of where we are taking our organization, we are all on the same path together. That does not happen now. So what happens in an organization is it becomes discombobulated. Individuals don't know. You think you're going to the Maldives, but you get on the flight to Bali. Now, they're both the same hot destinations, aren't they? But they're not the same. And from an organizational perspective, this is where we start to see loss of market share. We start losing productivity. We start to lose those really key people. So when we talk about a digital transformation, we never look at it from that, again, not a technology uplift. When we talk about this, it is about bringing the entire organization along the journey of the strategic intent of where that organization is going, not blaming one department for the woes of the rest of the organization. And that is the difference between going exponential and losing market share and not working in a well-oiled machine. So from my perspective, I like to talk about that, and I want to actually open the conversation up now to the rest of you. I want to understand if any of you have experienced this. In the meantime, there's my LinkedIn. If you would like to link with me on LinkedIn and know more about this particular idea. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So if you've got that, hopefully I can share it later, but I want to stop sharing because I'd love to hear from you. So does this idea of not really understanding strategic intent and looking at all of the silos within an organization, has anybody experienced that on this call? I can see some nods. How do you think you'd change it now that you understand where we're going? So you know we're all going to the Maldives, right? What would help you in your organization to help them understand that we all need to have a view or an itinerary, whatever you want to call it, but we need a view of where we are going as an organization? What do you think would help? Anyone got any comments, any thoughts? And Ian, I'm going to posit something to you. You're a CEO. Did you ever see that down beneath you? You thought that you had given everybody clear communications. You thought that they had digested that information, but they hadn't really. Have you seen that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Look, the reason my hairstyle is the way it is simply because of that fact in my early career, for sure. But I've seen the other side of it as well, which is the better communicated, the single purpose, the communication of a purpose, and therefore then you used the expression earlier, Mary-Beth, about the person on reception not knowing what's going on. I've seen the good where that person does know what he or she does know what's happening in the organization, simply because the purpose of the change has been really well communicated, reinforced, story told, and roadshowed, etc., 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 so that everybody fully understands their contribution towards whatever it is they're aiming towards. Yeah. But yeah, I confess, early part of my career, I was a bit gung-ho, thought tell somebody once and it would all happen, but little did I know.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm loving some of the things that are coming through here with the OKRs and the comms strategy and those sorts of things. Who's worked in a startup? Startups are beautiful. If you've ever worked in a startup, because everybody just knows where they're going. There's a shared vision and everyone just gets in and they get in and they get dirty and it is just so exciting. I love a good startup. And then something happens, becomes a scale up, gets that little bit bigger. And then suddenly we start bringing in leaders. And those leaders bring in the lessons that they've learned from other organizations and they start to come in and they start to change that, start creating their silos. And then we start to see it becomes a small to medium business. And then the silos become more pertinent. And then suddenly we've got one leader, team leader, and we've got these verticals, I'm sorry. We've got these verticals where we've got leader upon leader upon leader upon leader with one person working at the bottom of that. And then it all starts to become siloed. And you're absolutely right. Strategy is one thing. OKRs is one thing. Comm strategy, regular checkpoints. But what I will say to you is this. You are all leaders. You're all leading programs of work. I'm assuming you're all professionals. The way which individuals consume information is very different. Yes, Pam, you beat me to it. The janitor story. If no one knows what the janitor story is, the NASA janitor story. John F. Kennedy went to NASA and he spoke to a janitor and he said to the janitor, "So what do you do here?" And he said, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon." Because he understood exactly where he was and that shared vision. Shared vision is very hard as the organization gets bigger, but it requires a great deal of leadership, not management. There is a very big difference between management and leadership. A great deal of leadership to assist our people in being able to consume the information we need to consume and to constantly reinforce where we're traveling to. So if we know we're all going to the Maldives and we've packed all of our summer clothes and our gorgeous bikinis, although I haven't worn a gorgeous, I don't think I've ever worn a gorgeous bikini. Anyway, we've all packed our bathers, we've got towels, we're ready to go, and we wind up in Sweden in the middle of winter. How will that make us feel? Yeah, a little dumb, a little cold, and a little disappointed? Absolutely. So we don't want our people to feel cold. We want our people to feel excited. We want them to feel the joy of meeting the strategic intent of the organization. So when you are communicating with your team members, it is really important to ensure that you communicate in various ways. Some of us consume things visually, some of us consume information verbally, etc. Really understand the people that are working with you because it will actually make your jobs a lot easier as you move forward. And we know, and if you don't want hair like Ian, you want to make sure that you are communicating well. I'd like to finish on AI, if you would allow me. I've got a few minutes. I said that I would speak for about 45 minutes. So I've got a few minutes to talk about AI. I get asked a lot about AI. Who is in the throes of some form of AI program, or is being told you need to use this, you need to use that? Who's in that space at the moment? Some of you? May I ask, and if you're not comfortable saying this, it's okay, but who's scared of AI? Who's really feeling afraid and feeling that their jobs may become superfluous to some extent? Yeah, some of you are? Yeah, AI is absolutely a disruptor. I was speaking to Renata about this before we came onto the call. Um, I said, AI, it's moving fast, isn't it? Um, it is moving really fast. Is it moving as fast as the internet when that came out? I don't actually think so. I think that things are moving as fast as they need to move. Um, oh, I love that, Alice. People feel they'll lose their ability to think. Yeah. Now I'm speaking with a lot of people who are, they're afraid. Their jobs have been, they've found themselves redundant in role and they're looking for another role. They don't know what they need to know from an AI perspective. Is it enough just to be able to prompt Chat GPT or Claude or whatever other tool out there? Is prompting enough? What do I need to know? Do I need to know how to code? Do I need to do this? Do I need to know that? What is it that I need to be able to stand out in the market because I'm now back on the market? What I would say is this: remain curious. Think about the role that you do. Think about the tools that you could use that could remove some of the administrative tasks that you don't actually need to do, that require you to context switch, but aren't going to add any value to what it is that you're doing. And then see if you can get AI to work for you to remove some of that heavy lift so that you can actually do the thinking work. AI cannot think for us. So that is the key. AI cannot talk for us. It cannot communicate for us. Well, it can't do that yet. Who knows where it's going? But remain curious. If you are feeling scared, pause, breathe, think about what you can use and how you can use it. Think about the people who used to be draftsmen, who used to draw drawings, and then CAD came in and it got rid of that entire cohort of people. What did they do? They learned how to use CAD drawings. Think of Kodak and where it ended up, because it didn't remain curious. It ceased to be curious about, and as an organization. So as an individual, remain curious. Look at, read, arm yourself with what you need, and try to park the fear to the side and become a thought leader in this space. Yes, Alex, you're right. AI can help us work smarter, but it will never stop your brain from thinking. Create content, write new things, explore different areas, different avenues, read research papers, really keep your mind active, and then use AI where it can just take some of those things away from you. I really urge you as professionals to think in that way so that you don't feel scared by it, because it can really help. But if you're afraid, it might hinder, and it might, the way with which you communicate about it may have negative impacts. AI still needs validation. Absolutely. It's not going to get it right. Although everyone that reads Facebook posts thinks that that's right. It's on the internet, so it must be correct, right? Possibly. Yes, you're right, Arnold. Lots of roles will change. Lots of roles will no longer be, but there will be roles that will be created. The same as when the internet came out, the same sort of thing is happening right now. If you become afraid and stuck in your way of working, then you may find yourself coming undone. So I would urge you, stay curious. All right, that's it. I've finished speaking at you. Anyone have any questions for me? And if you want to come off on and just ask me, or you can ask me in the chat, I would love to hear from you. Anything on the concepts that I've spoken to you about, anything that you're curious about?
Hi,
Or you'll
Mary
just
Beth.
be, yes? Raymond, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for the prezzo. Um, we call bathers togs here in New Zealand. That might be a new term for you.
Oh, no, togs works.
Togs. Yeah,
But you don't call thongs, you call them jandals? Jandals.
yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
Um, no, I like that analogy. Um, and just extending it a bit further. I suppose when it's that ability to influence, isn't it? Because when we're all trying to board the plane, if you will, that key distinction there is people have chosen to get on that flight to go to the Maldives, but they might not necessarily in this instance have chosen to go on this journey to this new strategy in the organization. So what are some of those practical elements that we can implement during the project execution phase? And I know you've touched on communication and things, and I think that's one of the the biggest challenges of winning people over to make sure that your transformation is a success. So just wanted to touch on that usually I find is the hardest thing. You've got the teams that are doing their shadow IT. You've got the teams that have always done it this way and refuse.
It's not broken. Why fix it? Why are you trying to fix it? It's not broken, right? Yes. The people that have the people that they dig in even tighter. This is where you've really got to start speaking to the individual. That's really hard. It's hard work, especially if you're in the change space. You have to speak to the individual at their level and understand what it is that they are afraid of. Because generally when people get stuck, it's because there's a fear. There's some sort of fear in the background that they're frightened of. I've always done it this way. It's not broken. Why are you fixing it? And they can't see past that. You've heard of growth mindset, right? There are some people that don't have a growth mindset. Unfortunately, we are seeing people that don't have a growth mindset, that are not curious, being moved along, right? But it is very challenging. So you have to actually get people excited about it. But everybody needs to be talking about it. You can't have, you go on a flight, and who's gone on a flight with their teenagers? The teenagers don't want to go to the Maldives. The Maldives is beautiful, but the teenagers don't want to go because they want to stay at home on their devices. Do they make the trip miserable or what? Yeah. And you get them on the flight, they're like, oh, and their faces. As soon as they get there, they actually understand that, wow, this is actually really quite nice because everybody's excited. So it's almost like that peer group. If everyone is speaking and singing from the same songbook and talking about the excitement about what this is going to bring and how this is going to elevate the organization, you will find that people will actually start to come along with that journey. If they don't, they're going to leave. And you know what? You're not holding anybody hostage in your organization. And I know that's a hard thing to say, but Ian is a CEO. I was a CEO. If you don't like it, I'm not holding you hostage here. And generally speaking, it's not normally the top talent that are going to go. And I know that's going to sound like really harsh words, but I would love to be proven wrong. I've been in industry for about 35 years and still see that. So it is about everyone singing from the same songbook, everyone saying the same things, and reinforcing that this is the best direction for the organization. Sometimes people miss the flight, and it's as simple as that.
I suppose also just, we've probably seen the reels and things of people making a commotion on the plane and causing a bit of disruption, and then actually get forcibly removed from the plane as well. So I suppose there's that element.
I've seen that in
action before the plane's even taken off.
I've seen that in action. And what's really interesting, the pilot can flick you off the flight. Did you know that? It's the pilot. If you are rude to a flight attendant, I've seen the pilot walk out and say to a woman that was on a flight I was on, she was being absolutely appalling. And he said, "You will not speak to my team that way. You need to leave this flight now." And she was escorted off the flight. That was that. Yeah, because the pilot knows where the pilot needs to go. And you're going to be coming along for that. People are interesting, and individuals. Being a leader, a people leader, is the hardest job you'll ever do. Even harder than that is when the team doesn't report to you. So when you are a project manager and you have people assigned to you, they don't report to you from a line management perspective. That then becomes even harder. So the messaging, the way you speak, the excitement with which you speak it, you need to work out how people are going to consume that information and really then target that way. There's lots of tools. We've had people put up here OKRs and KPIs and whatever you want to use in that space. They're great for measuring performance, etc. Obviously, if you can't measure it, you can't report upon it, you don't know where you're headed to. However, people just standard conversation. I'll give you a little bit of a story, short story. Does everyone know what sign-on glass is? You know, when you have a courier, they deliver something to you and you sign on that little device he's got or she's got. It's called sign-on glass. I started in technology in transport and logistics, and I implemented sign-on glass in 1992. So that's just giving you a bit of a view as to how old I am. Not 25, so just a little bit older. But I implemented that, and I remember going to Townsville, which is in Australia, a sort of a country regional hub, and working with the drivers there. We went through a week of just showing them the devices, taking them through, working with the unions and what they needed to do with that for a week. And every day they came, they signed that they had sat through the training. We did a week of training and taking them through what it would look like and everything that they would need to do, move them away from the manual run sheets. And then on the Monday, when we went to implement and actually go live, I had about 30% of those drivers come up to me saying, I don't know anything about this. What is this? Yet they sat through every single session and signed that they sat there through that. And then we went to implement, they denied knowing anything about it, which was fascinating to me. And that just came from a place of fear. And so working with each individual one, which was time consuming, but to work out what they were afraid of. And for quite a few of them at that point, quite a few of them couldn't actually read. They were not illiterate, but close to illiterate, and found that using the screen really challenging. So we had to work around patterns and things and pattern recognition for them. But that just shows you, Raymond, just how much when you think you're communicating really well, it just misses the mark. Anyone else got something? We've got about 5 minutes. No more comments? No more questions?
Well, I would like to ask you a question, Mary-Beth, please. Actually, you spoke about strategy, right? And I completely agree that we need to know the strategy before we take actions or we make any plan. But have you been or have you worked for any project that the organization didn't know the strategy or they were trying to figure out the strategy? In this case, what we project managers or program managers can do to avoid some waste or losses for the company?
The key here is when they don't know that it's not know their strategy, they don't actually know the business problem they're trying to solve and what you need to do. So business analysis 101, what's the business problem you're trying to solve? If there is no business problem, then why are we doing the project? And as project managers, we actually have the right to say we should stop this project. I have stopped projects mid-flight when an organization has spent millions of dollars and I've said this project is failing, we should not spend any more money on it. We need to stop. Now that can be quite career limiting, or it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that, but sometimes you're throwing good money after bad. If there is no clear business problem, and if that business problem isn't clearly aligned with this strategy, whatever that strategy is, every organization has some strategy, but if it's not aligning, then that needs to be called out. And as a project manager, you go to your next up or your skip level and you go up to the next level. It is scary to do that. I was working at a transport company. I was brought in to finish a project. I was told the project had $700,000 run rate left, and it was just closing it out. It was in the execution phase and we were ready to go live. When I got there, I realized, A, it wasn't ready to go live. B, the previous individual that was running that project was lying about all of the results, everything, where they were at, and what the business case that they stood up to spend the 3.2 million or whatever it was, what they'd said they were going to achieve, they weren't going to achieve, which meant that the business case would not be achieved. And I had to go in and say to the general manager, this project we actually need another 2.5 million to finish this. And I had to have that conversation. And I remember saying it to my husband, saying to him, I'm going to possibly lose my job tomorrow. So bad news doesn't get better with age. It's not like wine, right? It just gets worse. So you're better off realigning, reassessing, and then giving options to be able to deliver, and then offer that back to the business, which is what I did. I recut the plan, recut it with the team, and said, this is what it's going to actually cost. This is what it will actually look like, and seek that approval and that funding and do the work. Sometimes you're just given mess, absolute mess, and you have to tidy that up. But you also have to have the courage to say that it is a mess. But never, ever go in to see your boss with a problem. Go in with the problem, but your thought on the solution, and then bounce that idea around with them. No leader wants to be given a pile of problem. They want, yeah, that's the problem, but this is what I think we can do. So do that. That would be my recommendation. Ian, as a CEO, would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Beg your pardon. Yeah, very much so. I think, periodic assessments is critical. Focus on value rather than some process-oriented stuff, critical. But as somebody else, and in fact, a number of other people commented on, if you're not clear on what it is as a purpose you're trying to achieve, then really, as a program project manager, you should ask questions before you launch into anything, and seek that clarity around the purpose and what objectives, business objectives it ties back into. I think those are critical things for any professional project or program manager.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, please do link with me on LinkedIn. I would love that. Always happy to have a chat. And I was speaking to Renata, maybe I'll come out and see you in person maybe at the end of the year to do another one of these around a different topic. But thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mary-Beth. It was an amazing session, and I'm pretty sure it was very helpful and insightful to our community. And we look forward to hosting another session with you. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Renata. Thanks.